To begin using Google SketchUp, you need to either find your Google SketchUp 8 icon on your desktop or go to your Start menu, All Programs, and find Google SketchUp 8 and select Google SketchUp. Once this window opens, we are going to be looking at a basic menu that's going to give us a few different choices. These choices include things such as your templates, the Start button. You can watch video tutorials. There's tips and tricks. There's a help center, a blog, and you can print a quick reference card. But the first thing you want to probably do to start using is to choose a template. Depending on the type of project you want to do, go through and look at the different templates. You can use the English system, the metric system. Are you designing products? Are you working with architecture? Are you just working with 3D models for like Google Earth? I'm going to choose the product design and woodworking in inches, and I'm going to click Start using SketchUp. Now, once my program opens, it is going to be a very similar Windows-based program to anything else you've seen. You're going to have toolbars available to you. You'll also have menu bars. Within the menu bars, you'll have standards such as save and open, access to your different tools, things of that nature. So again, as this opens up, you'll see this menu bar across the top of the screen. We have a layer box that opened up because I keep that activated. It's important to work in layers within this program. We will talk about that after a little bit. Now you will see on the left hand side of the screen that we have our toolbar, and again across the top we have our different menus in our menu bar. If we take a look at the File menu, we will find things such as New, Open, Save, etc. It is important to know that this is where the 3D warehouse is located, where we can get different models and import them into this program. Under the Edit bar, we will find things such as redos, cut, copy, and paste. An important one is making groups. We will have to do a lot of that as we use this program. Under the views, we have different toolbars available. Make sure you have selected the large tool set. This will give you the full set of tools along the left hand side. The Getting Started set lacks some of those tools. Under the camera, these are different views. You can look at standard views such as your top, bottom, front, back, left, right, side. I like to work in parallel projection versus perspective. Draw and tools basically have the tools that are on your menu bar or your toolbar to the left here. Underneath Window, we will find our layers, which I have the box open on the right. Again, it's important to work within layers. I'll talk about that as we work here. We also have our Help menu. So to begin and get started, we always have this layer 0 that you cannot get rid of. I don't like to make anything within layer 0, so I'm going to create a new layer. And I don't know why it was continuing to follow me, but I will choose the plus sign. This will activate a new layer. Once it adds it to the bar right below layer 0, I will rename it, and then we will activate that layer. So it comes up as layer 1. I will rename this. Let's call it Shapes. Once I have that in there, it's created a couple of layers for me here. Clicking too many things too fast. So I've created a couple of different layers. All of them are visible. By choosing the radio buttons on the left hand side, that will activate the different layers for me. Now, as you can see, we have 3 different layers, layer 0, 1, 2, and I have now activated layer 1. I can make other layers invisible or visible by checking or unchecking that box, and again by selecting it. Clicking twice, I can change the name of this. Again, I'm going to call that shapes, as I said before. I'm going to turn off the visibility of the other layers. That way all I can see are things that I've drawn on this layer, and this is currently the layer I am working in. So we will move that box up out of the way a little bit, and we will start working with the actual drawing. Now, to start drawing, you're going to want to click on your pencil tool. This is going to allow me to start drawing lines. I do not know why we have a different tool selected, but we do. So I select again that pencil tool. Now our layers is moved around. I now have my pencil tool, and I am going to start drawing at my origin. So I select the origin by clicking on the left mouse button, and I drag out my line. I can move my line and snap it to the different accesses, or I can have it somewhere in between. Now, if you will notice, I am missing some things on the bottom right hand of the screen. If you've never used this before, what that is missing, and I hit a wrong button here. There we go. We're missing our measurements on that bottom right hand side. Here are those measurements. So once I've started drawing that line, I can stretch it out. Now I can either move that so the measurement is correct, or I can type in a measurement such as 24. I'm going to go with 2 on this one. That draws my line 2 inches long. So now I'm going to go at a 90-degree angle. I'm going to go another 2 inches and hit enter. And I am just making a basic square right now. So again, I want to keep this the right length, so I'm going to stay on that green axis. I can go past so I can see my line, type in my 2, hit enter, and then I can go back to that origin, or again staying on that red axis if it's not being nice to me. Click on 2, hit enter. Now I've created a square, and you can see it has become gray in area. That means it's closed. I always have to have a closed object to continue making something. So once I've done that, now I'm going to go choose what is called my push-pull tool, which is this one right here. I select that, and that is going to allow me to expand my object. So I move down here, and I point on my gray object, and I pull this up into the air. Now again, I'm holding my left mouse button down. I can give this any length I want by again typing in a value and hitting enter. So now I've created a rectangle, solid object that is 2 inches by 2 inches by 24 inches long. Now if I try to start moving things within this object, say I go over here and select our move tool, if I try to move something, I'm going to move just that one component because I have not grouped them. As you can see, it looks kind of goofy. So I'm going to go back to my edit and undo my move. Now what I'm going to do is choose my select tool, and I am going to highlight everything within that drawing. This is where I use that group function that I mentioned earlier. I choose edit, and I go down and I make this a group. Do not make it a component. That gets into more advanced modeling. At this point would probably mess you up. So now that I've made this a group, it has become one object. So now if I grab this and try to move it, I can choose a spot to move it, and now I move the entire object instead of just a piece of it. So again, I will go back, and I am going to do an undo and put it back into the right spot. So now that's how I create a basic object. Now, as I want to modify this and make it look different, what I'm doing is I'm creating with positive and negative space. So say I want to put a hole in this. I'm going to go over here, I'm going to choose my zoom tool, and I am going to zoom in on this object so it's a little bit easier to see what we're doing. Now I could create a circle on the face of this object. So I'm going to go up to the top here, and I'm going to go on the face. Now I could draw other lines on here to reference this. I'm not going to. I'm going to click and select. Now again, I can set a specific radius on this one. I'm going to make this 3/4 of an inch. That'll give me 1.5 inches. Let's even back that off because this is my radius. Let's make that 1/2 inch, so 0.5. Now that's drawn the circle on that face. So now if I go to this push-pull tool again, like I used before, I select that, I go to my face, to that hole, select it, and let's go down. And again, I'm going to go that same 24 inches and hit enter. So now what I have effectively done, if everything worked correctly, is I should have a hole going all the way through this object. This is a free orbit tool that I just selected, and this allows me to spin the object around any direction that I want to. So I'm going to zoom back out a little bit here, flip this over, and as you can see, my circle now extends all the way down through the bottom. Now I've drawn through this, but I still do not have the material removed. So I am going to go back to my camera, and I'm going to go back to my isometric view just to set it where I want it. So now again, we need to go back to this grouping that we did before. So I'm going to select everything, and I am going to make this a group. So now that I've made it all a group, everything is now joined together. Now to remove something, because I want this to be a hole through the center, I'm going to right click on this object and I'm going to click explode, and then I'm going to do that a second time, and I will do explode again. Once you see all of these dots, if I click again, I can no longer explode. So now I've separated everything. So what I'm going to go in is I'm going to go in and I'm going to select just this circle, that face right there, and I am going to hit delete. Now that removes that face. If I rotate this around to the other end, you will notice that that face is still there. I want to get rid of that one. So I go to my select tool, and again I'm going to click on just that round circle. I'm going to hit delete. So now I've removed those two faces, and if I rotate this, I should, in theory, be able to see all the way through my object. Now that I've removed my material and I have my hole, I'm going to again select the entire object, and I am going to make it a group again. Now I have a long rectangular shape that has a hole through it. As I said, and you can see in here, everything is working with positive and negative space. I'm either adding things or I'm removing things. We've talked about some of the very, very basic tools here. This is how you make these shapes. We talked just a little bit about layers. If I were to add more parts to this drawing, I would put them into different layers so I could hide things, remove things, show what I want. Again, it's more of an advanced feature, and if you go to, when you open this up, there's watch the video tutorials, or I will also add a link within our wiki here that shows you how to go to other video tutorials on how to use all of these things specifically.